Hello, listeners. I hope you're enjoying this top secret video. Why do you look so scared, Jake?
Because I had no idea what you were doing.
Talking to people on YouTube.
Okay.
Patrons.
Talking to you.
All you did was count down and then got really close to your mic.
I told you what. I told you. You should know.
I followed, but then I also hit record on my audio just in case.
Yeah,
so
I'm recording too.
Okay.
Okay, well.
Oh.
I turned up my volume.
Yeah, you did.
Yikes.
I turned up my volume. Is it bad?
Yes.
Okay.
It's too loud.
It's
Wow.
too loud.
Good to
So
know.
the patrons pay extra to see this? Is that right?
This is the good
Yes.
stuff.
But I'm not wearing pants. So.
Let's think.
I'm not recording. Oh, sorry. That's
Should
really
I start?
loud.
The whole purpose of this endeavor is to record.
I don't know what we're doing here. Okay, I guess I'm recording now.
1, 2, 3.
I prefer a countdown.
You know what got me changed on it was you counting into this video that I didn't know was happening. I mean, I'm blaming you, but it's my fault. I totally take responsibility.
To quote your screen.
Han?
Well, that's exactly what I was going to ask. What moment of your life have you experienced such anguish that you've yelled out into the sky? It can be the death of a comrade. It could be a bad test result in school. It could be a particular insult. Anything?
That's a really personal question.
Yeah.
I stubbed my toe once, and I reacted in that way.
Ooh, yeah. Toe stubbing will do that.
Mhm.
I've done that.
To the sky.
Mm-hmm.
You guys, you can't make fun of a Klingon death ritual. You're being way too flippant about this. This is serious stuff.
Well, I'm not trying to make light of it so much as trying to connect with it because I have never done this before in light of someone dying. So I'm trying to emulate what we as humans might feel. You don't buy that?
Felt like you were making fun of it. But I agree with Xander. I do this from all range of things, from stubbing toes to,
I was making fun of Worf specifically because this was only the first or maybe second time that he's done it. So he tried.
I want to say that I think this ritual is badass, especially the way Data describes it, which is they are warning the people in the afterlife that a Klingon warrior approaches. That's amazing. That's a great
pretty sweet. Yeah. Honestly, I need to start working on my death ritual.
There we go. Yeah, we should start a death ritual club to get people familiar with the ceremony.
Yeah. Mourning just feels lame when you could just scream to the afterlife, beware.
It's true.
I appreciate
beautiful.
that they also just regard the corpse as just a husk that's just can be discarded and is no longer needed.
Yeah. Fun fact, I actually ran into that in the Star Trek tabletop game because I was playing a character that knew about Klingons and I made the mistake of should we do something with the body? And my GM was like, no, they are husks. And I was like, oh, I knew that.
Oh my God, you got Trek checked hard.
I did.
Well, this is the episode Heart of Glory. It's another first season classic where Worf's loyalties to Starfleet are tested when 3 fugitive Klingons board the Enterprise and cause trouble, for lack of a better phrase.
Yeah, I feel like up until now, if you were watching Next Gen as it was coming out, especially if you were a fan of older Trek, I could imagine it would be very surprising to see a Klingon not only in Starfleet but on the bridge as a high-ranking officer. And we think now of Worf as this sort of huggable, scary teddy bear, but they really had to work to change the image of what the audience was seeing him as, coming from a Star Trek background. So I think the whole episode was really an establishing point for Worf as a character and where his sort of alliances lie.
Well, what an apt analogy, because bears were really scary until someone stuffed them with plush.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
It's Teddy Roosevelt or
Probably.
whatever it was named
He probably
after.
personally did it, yeah.
He did.
I bet he was the first creator.
So are we going to have plush Klingons in the future, you think?
Oh, I've got several, but that's for my private time.
Wait, whoa. It was normal till you got... weird with it.
Oh, their body size. No.
Yeah, what an interesting episode. I feel so conflicted on behalf of Worf. I feel confused about, like, I feel like there's a big allegory for, like, an adopted black kid growing up in a white family. Like, I don't know. I felt very, I feel like it's really hard for Worf being the only Klingon around.
And they, like you mentioned, they established that he comes from the same sort of conflict that Spock did, in that he was half human, half Vulcan. With Worf, he's full Klingon, but was raised by humans, and so has the cultural understanding of a human, and has only learned about Klingon culture from afar up until now.
Which it seems like he's studied a lot of, because he knows
Right.
a lot about the things that they're talking about. But he also just feels like all this is new to him.
Right.
Yeah, he's definitely a product of, like, he learned his culture through books, it feels
Yes.
like, right?
And
He knows all the facts, but he doesn't know exactly how to process it, right? Xander?
Which also makes him so gullible to these sort of marauders.
Yeah,
to
yeah.
no good.
Yep. And this is not the last time that we'll see that either, but it becomes sort of this allegory of, like, book smart versus street smart. You can read and know information, but until you're living it and breathing in the culture, it's not exactly the same.
Man, tough time. And then growing up with this innate Klingon nature of wild, unbridled ferocity,
Yeah.
and having to tamp that down your whole life.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, for sure. And these
Poor Worf.
two, Chorus and Conmus or something like that. Knievis? No, Knievis is the one who dies. Anyway, these two are, like, they're even kind of extreme as far as Klingon goes, because they are renegades from the Klingons. They actually don't like the peace treaty that's been signed with the Federation. Is that what I understand their motivation to be?
Yeah, there's it's shady motivation all around, but this is the Klingon that you would expect to see in original series, with a little more forehead prosthetic makeup because they're changing the image of it. But this is what people expect when they hear Klingon when they were coming to Next Generation, the war race that it's in your blood, you can't deny it, and because that's what they were. Like,
we
the
haven't
bad
really
guys.
seen Klingons up until
I
this
just
point,
wanted to
have we?
say that it was Commander Chorus and Lieutenant Conmail.
Conmel. I knew it was
Aha.
something weird. Conmel. Got it. Cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This was also, I believe, the first mention of Romulans. I have that in my note. Yeah.
So one of the points that Roddenberry had
We've
made.
mentioned their cruisers a bunch.
Oh, sure. Okay.
One of the points that Roddenberry had made when he restarted the show was that he didn't want to revisit all the other aliens that they've already tread over in the original series. I think he made a point of saying, it's a huge galaxy out there, so there's plenty of endless amounts of aliens to explore, so let's include those. And that's why we haven't seen, I don't think we even really saw a Vulcan until, was it the episode where Wesley went to the academy?
Yep.
There was a Vulcan there. That was the first time we saw a Vulcan, really.
There might have been a background one or two, like in the med
I
bay.
mean, like as a prominent character.
Speaking of seeing things for the first time, you want to talk about a visual acuity transmitter? What? So Geordi apparently has this way to live stream his visor that we didn't even know about, which is so awesome. We get to watch it from the bridge, and Picard is rightfully amazed and confused, refers to it as an image of flashing colors and indistinct shapes, a visual frenzy.
If only you've done shrooms before watching this, like, he would have really...
But you also have to remember that was him acting against, like, a green screen. So he just had to trust in the dialogue that that's what was showing up on the screen. But yeah, I think it was a good way to integrate what Geordi sees keeping it in the plot. It was still relatively within the story, but there's always that question of, like, I want to know what Geordi sees, or what does that visor do exactly, type of thing. So this was a good way to sort of explain that. It seemed like this was sort of explaining some of the other bridge crew members and their quirks, because we've gone in depth with, like, Riker and Picard and even Crusher and stuff, but haven't really peeled back the layers of Geordi and Worf yet.
Yeah, they kind of showed their hand that they were trying to do that when Picard literally says, "Now I'm beginning to understand him."
Oh
Yeah.
God, yeah. So heavy-handed, and yet
Yeah.
I loved it. Thank
Right?
you for trying to understand. Finally, why didn't you ask my last name? First name.
Yeah. And then Riker's like, "Sir, I hate to break this up, but we have an episode to get to."
Yeah. Well, it's interesting that they have so many cameras on everybody's ship for this visual interface with other ships, yet they don't have any body cams to send on away missions or down to planets. Just
They didn't think of that yet.
Yeah. Yeah, it's the pieces are there.
Yeah.
And so the away team gets on board this, is it a Ferengi cruiser? They think it's Ferengi.
They think it's specifically Ferengi. They
Ferengi.
said it in a weird way, and I was like, happy
Well,
Pride.
wait.
I know this is the future,
Riker
but
was very Happy Pride. Riker was very accusatory of like, oh yeah, must have been those awful Ferengis. It's very accusatory, and I don't like it.
That's right. It was a Talarian freighter
That's
that
right.
was suspected to be attacked by Ferengi.
yes.
I thought that was the people who, drew the picture of their dream man and then he appeared, but that was maybe Talarians or something. And then when you look at the disambiguation, there's Turellians, Turellians,
Yeah.
Terrarians, and Tyrellians. So these were Turellians.
Talarians are the things that live inside like a dried atmosphere of like a glass cage that has no water, right?
Yes.
Or is that a terrarian? What's
And
a
then
human
Earthling
that's
is a
from Earth?
Terran.
Is a Terran.
Terran,
Yeah.
but that's
Yeah. So
What
that's
happens
good
when
that we,
you
threw
What happens
that
when you
there.
rip out your stitches?
You tear them.
You tear them. Okay. Yeah, I don't know whose freighter this is.
Turellian sounds right.
Anyway,
These two Klingons decided to take it over, hostile takeover. They thought, you know what? Fuck all things Klingons are up to. We're not down for peace. Let's go steal the ship.
Yeah.
yeah, these guys commandeered the freighter. So the way team gets through all of the mist and all of the hanging tubes that the ship barely has as it's starting to detonate, as a matter of fact, because its engine core is rupturing.
Well,
They
which
find-
Geordi saw through his visual acuity transmitter.
Yeah,
And at this point, I don't think it was established that they had taken over this cruiser. They thought that they were part of this cruiser, and they were rescuing them.
Yeah, they were surprised to see Klingons. That was our first act break, as a matter of fact. But we rescue the Klingons, we get them on board, and we have a little bit of an interrogation scene in the sick bay where they literally pretty much recount their whole story just in a conversation.
Yeah.
I felt like this episode, and like even when Geordi was explaining what he saw, we visually saw what he saw, so we didn't need him to over explain it. But like everybody's talking a lot through this plot, and they're like,
There's a lot
this
of
is all what
explaining.
happened. Yeah. And like with Geordi's stuff, I almost kind of had wanted him to let Picard figure it out as opposed to explain it all. It's like, well, Data has an aura over him. Well, why do you think that is?
Right.
It seems like you think that I don't see what you see. Well, don't you?
I'm finally beginning to understand.
Are you? Because I'm lost now.
Speaking of the sick bay, the dying Klingon definitely shouldn't have done that up the nose angle because you could definitely see the piece where his prosthetic was cut. Yeah, maybe that's an HD thing. We're not supposed to know. Leave it in lo-fi.
I had it down. I was like, "Are you sure you want that close up? You sure about that one?
Sure? You're really staying on it.
Every Klingon is born different, you guys.
Okay.
Maybe he had a prominent head ridge.
Maybe it's Maybelline.
Or maybe he had a very small nose and he put the prosthetics on as a Klingon to fit in more. It's like plastic surgery.
Well, Chorus and Conmel pretty much give a very well, I guess I would say it's convincing, but they don't finish their story before they say they're hungry and tired, which seems like a very un-Klingon excuse to get out of that conversation. But Picard buys it.
Wait, why were you on this ship that wasn't your ship?
Oh, I'm hungry.
Tired. Sleep
sleepy.
now. Long day.
Lots of fighting.
Sure, not suspicious at all. Absolutely.
So I guess they take him to go get a Klingon meal.
Yes.
And for Worf to have his first Klingon hang, It's a big
That's
deal for
true.
him. He's like,
Yeah.
should I walk them? I could, I'm not busy unless you need me. I can walk them to their quarters. And then they immediately say, wow, wish that they had been some sort of enemy that we had destroyed the ship of. And he's like, wait, what? Did you guys just admit that you were lying to my captain?
They're not kings of subtlety, we will.
No.
No.
But they also, I feel like that's a sign of the disrespect to Worf's uniform, in that they're only seeing like, oh, you've infiltrated Starfleet. Like we can tell you whatever.
I feel like, they're actually bragging. They're actually subtly saying, you know what we did. They want him to know that they are brave warriors, because as soon as they get him inside, they start asking him about how soft he is and weak, and what is it about his blood crying out for glory or some wonderful line. There was some good
Why do you wish to
expressions of
anger
that.
me? To see if we still can.
Right.
Look, just because he can control it doesn't mean there's not a fire inside of him. Like me every second of the day.
Ooh.
I like that. Do glorious battles no longer inspire your dreams?
That's right.
Ooh. Oh, they sure do. I got a lot of zombie dreams. Yeah.
I don't know, like they
Sorry, unrelated.
So the Klingons eat up. They do not notably eat their vegetables. I picked that apart.
You noticed that?
Oh,
That's very particular.
They went straight for the meat.
Yeah, their method. These actors were like, Klingons would not eat vegetables.
And then they confess pretty, like, was it before or after the meal? But they're pretty much like, all right, listen, this is what happened. We commandeered it. We're badass. We don't believe in peace.
Because they're recruiting him. They see him as very susceptible and vulnerable. They hear his story and they think, oh yeah, we can definitely get this guy to join our crew of vagabond pirates.
Right. Yeah, they think that they're rescuing Worf from this brainwashing or whatever it is that's happening.
Why do
and
they
Worf
think that?
kind of entertains the thought for a minute.
Yeah, and like I can understand where they're coming from, especially, you know, for me as a queer person growing up, there was always this sense of other, especially like with family. If you're the gay cousin or whatever, you're just hoping for someone to swoop you along to gay paradise, and then you could live out your gay life forever. And that could happen, but you know, there's this. I'm sure that it's pulling on some strings that Worf has had since his childhood. Of like, I wish the Klingons would come get me and bring me back to my home world.
So the first time that you met two other queer people, if they had stolen
I would have gotten into any
ship.
van.
Why are you so straight now, Xander?
Yeah.
Do glorious dances not inspire your dreams?
Do glory holes not inspire your dreams?
That's the only way now. Thanks, coronavirus.
I imagine that's...
No.
That's right.
I do appreciate this analogy, though. Xander.
Sorry, glory holes are not a gay thing.
It's an anyone thing. Well,
yeah. I just wanted to clarify. I think glory holes are for everyone.
I'll put a link to the comments. To
I love a good glory hole. Is all I'm trying to say.
Anyway,
that's
Hi,
all you're trying to
Mom.
say, Becca? That's it? That's how you could have
I
simplified
love
your
you,
message?
Mom.
mm-hmm.
Yeah, this is all staying in.
Right.
I do appreciate your analogy, though, Xander. But like, I wonder in Worf's case, and actually in your case, because I'm curious of like, what do you think gay paradise is, and what does Worf think of Klingon culture as he knows it? And these two guys in particular show us that there isn't just one Klingon culture. There's a variety of subsets within and beliefs within that as well.
Yeah.
Did you even know like gay paradise existed, and did it?
Younger, like I didn't even know gay people existed until a certain point. But then, you know, because of my experience and because of Worf's experience, we know better. That doesn't exist. You have to make it for yourself. And we have actually explored this in the past episodes, specifically the one with Wesley as the lead with the kids, where I forget what it was, When the Bow Breaks, I think it is. Mm-hmm. And that's the same thing. They were placed into environments that would foster whatever creative thing they innately had, take them away from parents who they thought were alienating them, and put them as an environment, but it doesn't work.
Right. Yeah, well, that's the thing is like he doesn't know what to expect, and that's what you didn't know what to expect either. And
Right.
that's why I think he does hesitate, especially when he hesitates in the corridor during the very quick hostage situation that we potentially go through.
Right,
When-
with Yar.
Yeah, Chorus
He's
just
like,
picks
I've
up
never had a best friend. Maybe they would be my best friend.
Uh-huh. Yeah.
that girl just looks straight into his soul. Is like, I'm not scared of you.
Yeah. What are you going to do? The director's right there.
So let's see.
Oh,
I'm
the
trying to remember
child.
order
I
of
was
this.
like, I don't know what girl. I'm just going to smile and laugh.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, they
Yeah,
are
that
about to
child
kidnap a
actor.
child,
Mhm.
and then Worf gently takes the child and then like sets her down, and she runs away and skipping, and they're like, oh, okay. I guess we're not doing that. plan.
Unfazed. Yeah.
Well, let's see. I don't remember the exact order of this, but after Kunivas dies, and after we get the Klingon death ritual, the other ship shows up, right? The Klingon ship that's tracking these guys,
And they contact the Enterprise
Yes.
formally. Mhm.
and
Tip-top ship. Mhm.
I was interested in the fact that they're kind of ham-handing this because in the background of that Klingon's view screen, you see both the Federation symbol and the Klingon symbol showing that, hey, we're at peace right now. And that's what he has on his back wall at all times.
Yeah.
It was a green screen. He didn't actually get like it mailed in, you know.
Yeah, he told his technician, he's like, now put up 2 images of both of our unions and just put them behind us. Just so
Yeah,
they
like I
know.
know you didn't get a full poster print of this episode for the Patreon specific video recording. And yet you have a Klingon death ritual behind you, Jake.
That's true. I did not commission this.
Yeah, they have to play it up for the audience because again, this was airing on television, and so things like that, it felt cool to catch, especially if you knew what the Federation symbol and what the Klingon symbol was. It was a sort of nod to like, oh, we see you, Trek fans. Like, here you go. These are the good ones. Remember?
Well, and so when is
I could
it
even rewind, and I'm impressed that you found that because I was not paying attention to that.
Okay, really quick canon question. When is it talked about that the Klingons are no longer at war with the Federation? Is that the top of the season? Because I know in one of the movies we show when they finally stop, which is I think Star Trek 6.
Yeah, and then there were the Khitomer Accords.
That was all happens like later in literal time. Like that happens in the early 90s, whereas we're in the late 80s right now. So I can't remember.
Yeah, I think I can't really remember either, but I think it's fuzzy on purpose. Like,
Don't worry, my sister will text me.
Yeah, because they revisit it. The Klingons are sort of wary allies because they want to keep that quote unquote bad guy in their back pocket or play with this sense of betrayal within like the Federation Klingons versus
right, because there's a lot of tension and turmoil within their own empire.
Yeah.
So this is when the Klingon on the other ship, their captain, he says, give us these traitors. We want them back. And then Picard's like, uh-oh, this is awkward because Worf just made 2 new friends. What do I tell him? He's going to be really upset. And then later on, the captain seems very uninterested in their husks of bodies, but couldn't they just stow them away and said they killed them if he never checked the bodies?
Oh, you're to like verify that they were dead?
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
you mean way
But
later
their
on.
husks were empty.
Right. Well, they had sensors, right? You can sense life signs, and I assume that the other ship would be able to sense the life signs of their crewmates. So there are different ways that you can track if they're alive or not, but plot.
Well, when Jeanneret, who's the captain of that ship, says, he tells Picard what happened aboard the freighter. Said these guys are renegades. They took out the ship that was sent to go retrieve them. So you need to be careful. And then we arrest them. They get locked into a cell, and then they assemble a gun out of their equipment, which I thought was one of the coolest sequences.
Scene ever.
No dialogue whatsoever. It was great. They didn't tell us everything. They just started doing it.
Hand me the thing so we can make our secret
I know,
gun.
right? It's like, let's get the disruptor out now. It's like, no, just do it. That was great.
He just hot glued some Nerf guns together.
Yeah.
It definitely did feel
worked.
like they were literally pulling the props together and like improvised the gun.
I wonder if it was like a prototype for like a toy, because they were aiming at kids in a way.
Well, that might have been also
I'll buy one
when
if it's plushy.
when Kunivas died, he had on his boot that little hook, which is one of those guys grabbed it on his way, and that was one of the things that made up the tip of the disruptor rifle. Or
just the
whatever
tip. Hey, I've noticed all 4 of the Klingons that we've met, aside from Worf, all have names starting with K.
Yes.
He was named by humans, huh? They were like, "You look like a Worf."
Yes, you're gonna run into some.
If they were gonna name him a human name, why didn't they name him a human name instead of like make up? Well, you're a Klingon, so you can.
Becca Scott,
Sorry.
Are you saying that you are unsatisfied with Worf as a name for a human as a human name when you yourself have multiple occasions of difficulty coming up with a human name?
Disagree. Because I named myself in a game last weekend.
Oh,
and originally I named myself Wilba, but I changed
Total human
it
name
to Wilma.
There you go.
Evolution.
See,
Progress.
his name was Bartholomew, but they went with Worf.
Also, all 3 of us go by abbreviated names as well.
Yeah.
Whoa.
So maybe his name is Worfolomew.
Or maybe it's Kaworf.
There.
Because Klingons need a K sound in their name is all I'm trying to say here. There's a pattern.
Yeah, there are naming conventions. You'll see it with Vulcans too. With like T'Pol, it would be. It's sort of like the Elvish of Trek, where you can spot like an Elvish name with like the apostrophes. Like you might be able to spot like a Klingon name and maybe a Vulcan name and guess by the conventions.
So if I were a Vulcan, would I be Becca?
Yeah, or a Klingon. That could work for either one.
Please call me that.
Bevik.
Bekok, yeah.
No. The Klingons escape really briefly. Conmel goes down in the hallway after 3 phaser blasts. I noted that.
Why was it not on stun?
Well, they kind of skipped protocol. There was a lot of just quick murder within about 30 seconds. The director actually, I think, changed in the script how quickly the Klingons could die because they wanted to make them seem more fearsome. So it took 3 shots to bring them down, which I thought was a notable change. Yeah.
That's
make it more intimidating.
But I meant it. It's
also, listen, fight choreography has never been Star Trek's strong point, and it's not gonna be. So we'll just fight. Anytime a fight happens, we'll just go with it.
Let's put nerds on a starship. What do you expect?
Yeah.
Chorus makes it to engineering, one of his favorite places to be, and pretty much holds the ship hostage because he's pointing a gun at the warp core, it sounds like, where the dilithium chamber or something.
Yes.
And they get Worf to go up and talk to him. Now, there was this is another change the director made. The entire fight was supposed to happen on the first floor of engineering where most everything happens, but they wanted to play with the vertical levels a little bit. So they went up way up top, which I thought made for a really great death scene where he smashed through glass.
Yeah.
Being high above to really get the full effect of
that was a great stunt.
Death ritual.
Yeah.
Nice.
Well,
he was going to blow up the warp core, which would blow up the entire ship, because if he was going to be taken by the Klingon ship, he would be executed most likely, even though Worf tried to plead for mercy for him, and he would rather go down with the whole ship, which is a little crazy, and that's what that I can understand a little more why it's not set to stun, because he's trying to blow up everybody, but still shouldn't be shooting death phasers at your own warp core.
No. Yeah. And also, I think you had mentioned earlier, there is a lot of talking in this episode, and so we've gotten a lot of the same scenery. So to set something within the engineering room, but at a different angle that we hadn't seen before, made for another interesting sort of setup.
Yeah, well, we lack a B plot in this, right?
Yeah.
Don't we? Like, it kind of is another one of those.
They tried with Geordi a little bit, but they lost it in a way.
Yeah, they abandoned it pretty quickly. I think it feels, this episode, as much as I enjoyed it, still feels a little slow because it has no B plot. It was similar to the episode The Battle, where Picard has to go back through the Stargazers. history.
Yeah.
Like
Mhm.
I was a little bored in parts of it because it didn't have as much mystery of switching back and forth. And thank you for pointing out why. Also, if Geordi did have a B plot that continued, I would love to see Data be like, "Let me try on your visual sensor."
Yeah. Yeah.
Be cute.
It
It
would
was
be.
pretty notable that like
besties.
when Picard was like, "What is that?" Like it's clearly not Jonathan Frakes. Like it's a
Right?
photo
It was a
Yeah.
stand-in.
double or
Yeah.
something. Same with Data. Like the hairline did not match.
No.
Nope.
And they put like a bad Photoshop filter or whatever it was over it. It's like, what did you do? Like glowing edges or something.
But it ends with obviously Chorus falling through glass and a good another death ritual.
Also, that shouldn't have happened. Technically, it's clear aluminum, but whatever.
Also, how unsafe. Like I bet
Yeah.
one security personnel, as soon as that happened, was like,
Yeah.
I told you so. I told you guys that we should have changed that out. Because all he did was fall forward.
Right.
Kind of like 6 feet. So
Yeah.
that's an accident waiting to
I want to
happen.
hear more about this clear aluminum. What?
Well, they addressed it in one of the Star Trek movies with Scotty, because that was one of the concerns. It's
Oh.
like, what is all this glass everywhere? And they're like, no, it's just see-through, really strong aluminum alloy. So
that
that's
makes
what
a lot more sense.
like the ship windows and stuff like that would be made of, not glass.
But it was a cooler thing to show. So
They probably
did
had
it.
some sugar glass on set, and they're like, hey,
Let's do it.
Yeah.
Worf bluffs to the captain and says they died well, which I was really upset about, but I realized that he's bluffing. Like I was like, these guys killed Starfleet personnel. You shouldn't be like building their honor, but he's building their honor because that's his culture a little bit. So I got that.
And you see this sort of, they talk about it being an instinct thing. It's like anomalous to crying involuntarily or having some sort of emotional reaction. I think that he's just, something bubbles up, at least that they were trying. Not that that was conveyed through the acting, per se.
Ouch.
Yeah, I liked this episode, but again,
Sorry,
I just
who are you throwing shade on there?
Worf.
Oh.
Worf, yeah. Michael Dorn a little bit.
Michael Dorn's still finding it. Like I feel
Yeah,
like he
and-
comes into the role more when it gets more defined. Like this is an episode that's supposed to work on his backstory, but it just talks about his backstory. He doesn't get to live it much, you know.
This was not Michael Dorn's fault. Also, I can imagine it would be so hard to emote with that forehead prosthetic piece and all the like. I don't blame him. It was some questionable directing or whatever. I don't know.
I can attest.
Sorry, Mr. Dorn.
Speaking of actors in Klingon prosthetics, the actor who played Chorus was Vaughn Armstrong. Do you know about Vaughn Armstrong, Xander?
No.
He's played a total of, I think, 12 different roles in different Star Trek franchises. Yeah, he's actually, I think, he's like an admiral in Enterprise. I think he also has a role in
yes.
Voyager as well.
Okay.
I'll put a link to his Memory Alpha article, which is pretty extensive.
Actors that are like that. One that comes to mind is Jeffrey Combs, who's played a bunch of different characters too. And yeah,
he's in a bunch of Voyager episodes and a few DS9 episodes as well.
Cool, yeah.
But what'd you guys think overall?
Overall, I thought it was a great Trek episode. I love this one, even though I could use a B plot.
Yeah, I don't know. It didn't particularly do it for me. I love Worf, and I love seeing his inner turmoil in this episode of that internal struggle. But the episode structure overall, the fight sequence, nah.
Yeah.
It
had a good idea of like trying to show Worf in the whole culture struggle and get to his backstory, but it was too much referencing it as opposed to living it.
Yeah.
Wow.
But next episode, we're going to do some real living because
why? How?
Well, let me tell you. It's the Arsenal of Freedom. Geordi leads the Enterprise into battle while Captain Picard and an away team are trapped on planet Minos.
Just as he was beginning to understand him.
They're taking fire from a dangerous automated weapons system.
Minos can't wait.
Well then.
Engage. Yeah.
That was flawless.
Yeah. Perfection.
Wow. All right. 19 episodes. We finally did it.
Oh my God, my age. Well, patrons.
I forgot to look at my Klingon and Federation history. Sorry.
Yeah. I just want to say, I love you. Okay, bye.